How's it going, everybody? I hope that everybody is having a good week. Whoa, didn't expect that kind of an enthusiastic audience here. So, I know. Thank you. Thank you. Yep, I know. Yeah. I'm great. I know. I know. Jeez. Wow. Okay, so if you guys can stop, I can start the video now. Okay? I understand. I'm great, but not that great. Okay. Now, I want to do some more videos where I'm reading. I have a few things that I want to read and to share. We're reaching a point in time where the elites are pretty much making their move on us with their agenda, which is the New World Order. And they're pretty much working very, very hard with this new, with this crisis thing that's been going on for well over a year and a half, to bring this agenda, their authoritarian agenda, about. So, while the 18 subscribers that I have to this channel probably are pretty aware of this organization right here, the Lucis Trust, there might be some people, though, that watch this that aren't aware. But I wanted to share this book here called Changing Esoteric Values by Alice Bailey's husband, Foster Bailey. Now, why is this important? Well, for one, this guy here was a highly degreed freemason. You know what? I bite myself in the butt. I should have... Is it here? I've been reading a lot on the Lucis Trust lately. I think I have an idea. Okay. Keep that there. I have a spot that I'm looking at. I'm researching a lot on these Lucis Trust books. But he's the same author who wrote this book right here. So, I got this in the mail, got it on Amazon, got it in the mail, and obviously Masons. This is a fan of some Freemason here, this book anyways. Friend to Friend, as if that was one of them. So, but in this, he talks about the Illuminati, Hidden Brotherhood, New World Religion. Now this book right here I want to share because, he talks all about this occult hierarchy that, we're taught in our culture to still dismiss it as a conspiracy theory, that we have an occult hierarchy in charge of the affairs of this planet and are bringing us towards this, new age. And before I do that, I'm going to give a little history on the Lucis Trust in case there's somebody that doesn't know. This is from Wikipedia. The Lucis Trust is a non-profit service organization incorporated in the United States in 1922 by Alice Bailey and her husband Foster Bailey to act as a fiduciary trust for the publishing of 24 books of esoteric philosophy published under Alice Bailey's name, to fund and administer activities concerned with the establishment of what they call, quote, right human relations, unquote. Go down here. The Lucis Trust Publishing Company was founded in the early 1920s as the Lucifer Publishing Company. The name has been attributed to the Baileys' study of theosophical teachings that Lucifer, the archangel, brought intelligence to mankind. And the source for that is the, from their own website, on the article called The Esoteric Meaning of Lucifer. The name was changed in 1925 to Lucis Publishing Company and has headquarters in New York City, London, and Geneva. This is interesting. The Lucis Trust runs a blog, World Goodwill, which focuses on defining new sustainable development goals for humanity. Now, those who have done the New World Order research knows that that's all a part of the Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, where it's all about taking control of all of our finance resources, our whole planet, and pretty much making us slaves under this false pretense of saving the environment for their greater good, or whatever. So, maybe I'll just click on that. So, and also, their World Goodwill does a lot of work for the United Nations. So you have your Luciferian connection to the New Age, Luciferian New Age connection to the United Nations. They are a part of the United Nations Economic and Social Council, or whatever. You can look that up. So yes, they are recognized by the United Nations as a religious organization. That pushes their agenda. And I have plenty of books by Alice Bailey, The Externalization of the Hierarchy. Froze this Gatorade a little bit. Like cold, ice cold. But I have a few chapters or so I want to read out of this by your husband, Foster Bailey, because I want to document and upload everything I can on proving without a shadow of a doubt that the Freemasons and the Rosicrucians, the members of all these other various secret societies are, admittedly in their own writings, a part of the agenda to bring about world government. Therefore, they are one of the main agents and organizations that are bringing all this about, causing all this trouble. And you can always go back to this whenever somebody tries to convince you that it's a quote-unquote conspiracy theory, because I have it all documented. And so I want to further document everything, whether it seems like it's needed or not. We're at such a stage now where there's really no hiding it anymore. There's really no denying it anymore. It's all come out in the open, and the elites just don't, well, frankly, give a shit anymore. So, but I'm going to start on I wanted to start on chapter 2 because there's a very interesting, it talks about, the title of the chapter is That Mysterious Hierarchy, World Spiritual Executives. Now, keep in mind that this is an esoteric text, so of course they're going to, mumbo jumbo a lot, play bullshit words with some things, but he reveals a lot in his writings about the agenda and the hierarchy being directly responsible and behind this agenda. So, but I wanted to, before I did that, there's a interesting, they talk about the Theosophical movement that started in the 1800s, and Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, she started the Theosophical Society, and that pretty much became the groundwork for what later became, developed into the New Age movement. And, that's who I was reading that Wikipedia article, that she's the one that originally taught in her writings that Lucifer is the bringer of light, and that he, came, whatever eons ago from the planet, of course, and according to their mumbo jumbo, he came from the planet Venus with the other sons of God to give, knowledge and intelligence to what was then, quote unquote, animal man. But anyways, I just wanted to give you this interesting quote here on page 10 of this book. Our esoteric teaching, our knowledge of the hierarchy and the esoteric truth that we hold as a group in the world, came to us originally very largely through the work of Madame Blavatsky. Her appearance and work was a carefully planned hierarchical enterprise. You hear that? It was the decision of the hierarchy to make available certain teachings and to take certain action through their disciple H.P. Blavatsky. which would be an attack on this intensely materialistic type of civilization, which was, and still is, crushing the human family. Although esotericism had been known secretly to the few, this was the first major effort of the hierarchy to implant esotericism in the Western world. The master who took on the job for the hierarchy is known to some as Dijwal Kul, the Tibetan. Now, this is where I think he starts to, with his mumbo jumbo. But I think when he is referring to the hierarchy, I think he's talking about, the adepts, the 1,000 points of light. He worked with Blavatsky and gave her the teaching. So, let's get to the chapter 2. He also claims that Annie Besant was, if you know Annie Besant, she, I think, co-founded Co-Masonry, the first Masonic movement to bring in women and others, whatever. So she was an admitted socialist. And as you'll find with these other people, the Baileys, they're socialists too. But let me get to... I would suggest find this book and read it yourself and his other stuff. I've been trying to get a couple of these other little books because there's a lot of stuff we can use to as proof and everything else that who the enemies really are behind this agenda. So, chapter 2. I'm just going to do like a half an hour a piece with each segment where I'm reading this, half hour segments. Chapter 2, that mysterious hierarchy, world spiritual executives. We have considered some of the aspects of the situation in the world today which confronts those of us who have esoteric knowledge. We spoke of what the esoteric group might conceivably do in the present cycle of rapidly expanding human consciousness and readjustments of national and international viewpoints, which would justify our position as the custodians of some knowledge, at least of the plan. In order to take a logical step forward in the understanding of that plan, we are considering the fact of the occult hierarchy of the planet. To esotericists, or should I say esoteric students, which is more humbly and more accurate, the spiritual hierarchy led by the Christ is a fact. And you research the mystery schools of New Age, the Christ is not the Christ of the New Testament. It is an office position to them, to the New Agers, currently held by somebody they call Lord Maitreya, that they claim will make an appearance someday. But to the Masons and all the others, the Christ is an office that can be held by anybody who becomes quote-unquote illumined. So, in the religious world, allegiance has been drawn to the Christ as the Son of the Father seated upon the right hand of the throne of God. But there is a curious vacuum in the consciousness of the Christian world about how he works, and we are left with the rather impractical notion that somehow or other he is all-powerful under God, that he has paid a tremendous price for our redemption, and that we therefore owe him a great deal, and that by giving our allegiance to him, we will be doing the right thing and doing what God wants. This to some people seems a bit childish, but nevertheless it is true that Christ did come and he did sacrifice himself for humanity, but it was not to appease the wrath of an angry God. The sacrifice was in the coming. The cross was the climaxing incident. That he is coming again as he promised, we readily accept as true. Is that fact real enough to us to make it worthwhile to do something about it? We need in this generation a more reasonable presentation of essential truth, and this more reasonable picture is largely in the custody of people who have some esoteric knowledge. It remains unorthodox, and we have to make it acceptable. This is our grand good fortune and opportunity. It is also a very pressing responsibility. The world today is in confusion. Sincere and honest people who are of the finest that our civilization has produced are deeply concerned and are anxious that they may understand a little better what it is that they might do, which would really be spiritually sound and in line with God's plan. The era of special crisis, and therefore of special opportunity for the human family, has not yet closed, and in a broad sense it never will. But there are special times and seasons in the years through which we are now living are such a special time. When that time is past, the same opportunity will not be ours. World affairs are controlled by the best thinkers of the race to a very considerable extent. If, therefore, there is confusion, it is the confusion of our thinking. Basically, the desire of the mass of humanity conditions us all more inevitably than we like to realize. But out of that mass there has emerged leadership based upon the development of the mind. This is not only far from negligible, but it is the most important factor as humanity itself shapes its future destiny. We are not intended to be spiritual robots. No priestcraft can rightly dictate the way that man should go. It is therefore essential that the esotericists of the world, having knowledge of the occult hierarchy led by the Christ, should present that knowledge to the world in intelligent terms which are acceptable to the leading thinkers of our time. It is not enough that we simply make bold statements about the fact that there is a hierarchy and then make claims about personally being in touch with them. Through the inadequate capacity of esotericists in the past, the story about the masters of the wisdom has generally been presented in a childlike manner, and this unfortunate circumstance has to be neutralized, and an effort has to be made to correct misinformation. People everywhere give their allegiance basically to what they conceive to be the truth, whether it happens to be expressed by any Protestant or Catholic church, or whether they find it in Buddhism or Hinduism or other religions. This increasing willingness to accept truth from any source is gradually relieving the world from the thraldom of sectarianism, and this is an open door for us if we speak truly. We ourselves need to think more deeply, to probe more earnestly into the realities of the fact of the hierarchy. What sort of hierarchy is it? What sort of people are these human beings who are members of the hierarchy? What sort of organization is it of which the Christ is the head? And how does he run it? And what are the factors to which this organization pays most attention? Are the masters rational, intelligent, reasonable spiritual executives, or are they far distant mystics, delightful, loving men who are hardly gratified if Sarah Jane and Johnny Jones will only pay attention to them and hold some nice little comfortable self-satisfying meetings somewhere with pictures in front of them which they finally think look like them? It is time we recognize that a more rational consideration of these spiritual values is essential in the esoteric world before we can present these truths successfully to others. If we do not have the capacity to think clearly and to present something to the world which is closer to reality than we have been presenting in the last 2 generations, we are going to forfeit our birthright as esotericists and register a group failure. Let us turn our attention, therefore, to the hierarchy in new terms. It is illuminating to consider its origin according to the ancient tradition. When the Lord of the world, who has for us been given the name Sanat Kumara, decided to use this planet for an expression of his life which would contribute to the glorious destiny and consummation of the plan for the entire solar system, he made the great sacrifice and took physical incarnation in this planet. When the Christ took incarnation, he did at his level what the Father had done. When the occult hierarchy precipitates itself again among the sons of men, their sacrifice at that level will also be great. On a still lower level, a leading world disciple in a new group of world servers is a little like a statesman today, giving up his private life and his comfort and his very pleasant surroundings and taking a job in world affairs. He therefore may have to live in a noisy city and travel around in aeroplanes and do all sorts of things which wear him out, sap his vitality, make him excessively tired, open him to attack, and produce all sorts of discomforts. You and I can follow this pattern in the place where we are if we so choose, and according to our capacity, quote, as above, so below. It is stated that Sanat Kumara came 18 million years ago, which fact does not matter very much to us today, except that it helps to give us time perspective. When this stupendous decision was made, and action taken, certain great lives and intelligences associated with Santa Chimera joined with him in his spiritual adventure. He did not come alone. Then, as the slow process of evolution went on conditioning and developing the substance of which this planet was created, and as the evolution of the bodies humanity had to use proceeded, there came a time when events entirely apart from anything happening on this planet called away a very considerable number of these collaborators and highly evolved spiritual cooperators who had come with the Lord of the world from other parts of the solar system. It was at that time that the occult hierarchy of the planet came into existence. It was organized for the purpose of taking over the job which had to be taken over because of this circumstance. And ever since that date, in the middle of the Atlantean era, there has existed on this planet, this group of spiritual men in the beginning composed almost entirely of men who had achieved their mastership not as a part of our Earth humanity but elsewhere in the solar system. The goal was to raise and expand the consciousness of the human family to the point where we could take on our own job, because if we cannot take on our own job, then the great experiment and projected plan of the Lord of the world himself is not going to work out in the way intended. Now, do you have a guess of who this Santa Chimera really is? Well, I'll give you a clue. It's an anagram for Satan. Well, I didn't really give you a clue. I just pretty much spilled the beans. But, I mean, it's pretty obvious. You take the, you switch the T and the N around. Satan, Santa. And there's actually some sources you can look at to show that this Santa Chimera, who made the great sacrifice, unquote, is Lucifer. Or Satan. Got some time left, so... So there's actually, I think I might save that. Maybe I'll get to that as I proceed with these videos. So maybe that's my next one. On my second video, I'll bring up some articles on Santa Chimera being Satan. But the one who made the great sacrifice, according to the Lucis Trust, to evolve our race, and he came from another planet, whatever, according to their mumbo jumbo, was Lucifer. So saying the same thing about Santa Chimera, and since Santa Chimera has the same letters as Satan, and they're calling Satan the Lord of this world, and you know 2 + 2 = 4. So. The goal was to raise and expand the consciousness of the human family to the point where we could take on our own job, because if we cannot take on our own job, then the great experiment and projected plan of the Lord of the world himself is not going to work out in the way intended. It was at this time that it was decided to put forward the basic fact of the duality of all life expression on the planet as the best method of self-achievement of humanity. So far as the evolving human mind is concerned, this is the origin of the problem of evil. Whatever aids the plan is essentially good. What hinders the plan is not good. So that's how they think anyways. So if they have to create a catastrophe that kills some people, if it aids the plan, it's good. If you try to save some lives, waking people up to poisoning our food and water, or dumbing us down with the TV and all the propaganda in our school system, whatever. And if you're trying to hinder the plan, that's not good. So really that's their morality in a nutshell. That's their good and evil in a nutshell. The ends justify the means. All is spirit is a somewhat popular modern affirmation, but it is also true that all is matter. Both are manifesting divine energy. When humanity handles energy for divine purpose, it is sacred energy, whether it is what we call physical substance or not. This earth is spoken of in solar parlance as a non-sacred planet. It will remain a non-sacred planet until the sons of men themselves have made it a sacred planet. That is our destiny. And when we have done what we will spiritually wield the potency necessary for the salvation of all the kingdoms in nature, the human kingdom being the key kingdom and the most important kingdom of all on this planet. Today, 25 years after the supreme decision of the hierarchy in 1945, that's when World War II ended, of which we shall speak later, we esotericists still remain inarticulate before the world in terms of a rational expression of the fact of the hierarchy. We are not yet given the public any reasonable picture of the personnel of that hierarchy, and we are not paying sufficient attention as yet to the problems with which this hierarchy is actually concerned. We still like to think about these wonderful masters as somehow or other magically all potent and all wise and all seeing, just like God himself, which they are not, and that they are quite interested in you and me as individuals, which they are not. Okay, when we, through our skill in action, the depth of our knowledge, and the selflessness of our consecration, arrive at a point where we are useful in the plan, then they will use us. To the extent to which we are wisely usable in the service of humanity, they are interested in us as individuals, but beyond that, not so. So there you go. So today we face the reality of the fact that there is little to justify a comfortable sense of spiritual superiority because we are esotericists. We have been playing around with our esotericism while crisis after crisis in world affairs emerged and was dealt with by others. Let us therefore throw aside complacency and self-centered eagerness for more occult tidbits, for more advanced teaching and more potent meditations to hasten our own evolution. The occult hierarchy of the planet, including increasingly in their ranks senior disciples such as we are capable of becoming, is a group of practical, efficient, spiritual world executives. They know the essentials necessary for the working out of the plans of Santa Chimera, or Satan, in seeking to produce practical results and furthering the plan. They work under certain very definite limitations. Okay, one of the all conditioning and basic limitations to any action which the Christ himself can take in line with the divine plan for humanity has been expressed for us in Bible terms that the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. In other words, the whole scheme goes wrong, becomes abortive, and Santa Chimera's great experiment is a failure if humanity itself does not, in its own right and by its own intelligence and effort, achieve its own true destiny under that plan by finding its own way into heaven. We have transcended the stage of childishness, where we go along as comfortably and happily as we can, and are as nice and good as circumstances make it, not too difficult to achieve, and then when things go wrong, pray to God to save us. We have gone beyond that because of the response in humanity to the potency of the energy of mind, particularly in the last century. So, I'm on page 33. But I'll do a part 2, continuing reading. So that's a lot to digest, obviously, what you're hearing. And to keep in mind, these are esoteric texts, and a lot of their writings, while they're revealing things in plain sight to let you know they exist for some reason, part of the externalization of the hierarchy, that's what they want to do. They want to externalize, but yet at the same time throw in some things and writings like this to maybe get people to still turn a blind eye to what they're hearing or something. Like, they kind of write that way, I notice. But anyways, Santa Chimera. I think I'm going to save that one.